Good afternoon. About an hour away from 420. And I was just thinking about awakening. If I was going to tell you my path to awakening, where would I start? And really it all comes down to this right here. Well, not really this. This is an almond. Oh, great. I don't get it. Sometimes they blow their horn like a bat out of hell. Other times, barely wonder if anyone's driving. But anyway, I was talking about this being an almond. They say, well, almond because representative of the pineal gland. And they say it's about the size of an almond. It's up in here. Right about here level. Directly centered. Up, and yeah, off center a little bit. This is what it all comes back to though, your pineal gland. And think of it like your electromagnetic cosmic antenna, because that's exactly what it is. The awakening happens when the shell of calcified calcium and whatever calcifies to it cracks, and it can now resonate and vibrate at the frequency so the calcification of the pineal gland is part of the awakening, understanding that yours, mine, everyone's that you know has been intentionally calcified, because this right here holds the control to your control over you and others' control over you, potentially, but more in the realm of keeping this calcified and keeping you from accessing. Just picture, what does an antenna do? If your antenna is calcified, that's one part of it. Calcified intentionally, that's another part of it. Now, to unlock it and to break that calcification, some people refer to it as the cracking of the cosmic egg. It's a very real physiological thing that happens inside. You can feel it in your head, you can feel it all the way down your spinal cord. It's an awakening. It's a whole body experience. It can be very powerful. But until that happens, people are just sitting dormant. It might turn on every now and then. That's like the proverbial light bulb turning on or something, like getting an inspiration, an intuition, that sort of a thing. But when you're closed off from that and you're programmed, trained to be closed off from that through behaviors, foods, what they're literally putting in the tap water to purposely insulate that and keep that connection from happening. When you don't have a connection to your source, going to be a lot easier manipulated. You're a lot easier to be manipulated and controlled by fear because you have no sovereignty. Therefore, fears can play much more dramatic roles in your life based on how far you are removed from your sovereignty. So a micro fear can turn into a macro fear, or vice versa, depending on how sovereign you are, where you are on the consciousness scale of, are you living in anger, jealousy? Are you greedy? Are there tendencies, there's also triggers to those, call it the 7 deadly sins. These triggers now attempt to get you to willingly give up your sovereignty in order to achieve the desirable thing. And giving up your sovereignty, you're reducing your vibration, and these are tactics to keep you at a low vibration so that you're more manageable, you're more influenceable, more suggestible, more reactive, less, I just say, stoic about things, where fears might not play that dramatic of a role. The more aware and conscious you are of things, might still be a legitimate fear, or might be less realistic of a fear for you now that you're at the higher consciousness. I mean, depending on the fear, just play the scenarios. But that's the idea behind keeping you away from your sovereignty and understanding your connection to source. That's part of the understanding that now it being intentionally kept from you, to have an intention, there must be a person or an entity behind that intention. That's another part of the awakening. There's a lot of layers to it, but the pineal gland is very important for your health, your body's internal, the hormones that it produces, the chemicals that do everything inside your brain and your cerebral spinal column. And not only that, it's literally I guess it's shaped like an almond. That's why I keep showing you an almond, but it has a crystalline structure of crystals all on its outer surfaces, completely coating it. And as we know, crystals are conductive, and actually we know of their piezoelectric properties, but that's only under pressure, or which we're not doing that inside of our heads, but they're still conductive. And the pursuit to keep this calcified, literally where calcium grows to those crystals and then it can't vibrate anymore. Oh, that's another thing. They're conductive, but they're also vibratory, the crystals. They resonate. So this is where my level of understanding is, that you can be open to higher resonating frequencies from the universe, you can also project higher resonating frequencies to the universe. And depending on how much you're projecting and how open you are to it is where your almond is going to resonate at. So it's what you're bringing in, what you're generating, it's a mixture. So your resonance, your frequency, your aura, your electromagnetic field is generated by this. And also your heart is another very strong one. It might even be I think it is the strongest one. This is more your cosmic, like, information one, and this is like your human one. So if I was to say anything about awakening, or not even a year ago, I didn't even know what really awakening was, like the true definition of it. Like, yes, I see motivational speakers and other gurus and like enlightened people that just seem to be just holier people, I guess, better people, just not needing much basic, but never really understanding that it's not just that person has an overwhelming desire to do good or be a good person all of a sudden. It's a whole restructuring of your priorities and your values, like where you placed value previously might not be in the same tier anymore once you've awakened. But you're awakening to certain things like government, religion. You're awakening to realities that weren't apparent to you previously, right? That's awakening. But there's a fundamental awakening to your, like, you can awaken to the fact that blue versus red doesn't even matter anymore in this world. It's just, what flavor of oppression do you want? How good or bad do you want the economy to go in conjunction with? But the ultimate control structure and the ultimate the design to control, essentially Americans, everyone, control everyone, is still there, blue or red. Doesn't matter, president to president, blue or red, regime to regime, is still a pursuit to keep this as quiet as possible and keep you as impressionable by society as possible. Not necessarily even by society, but by things going on in the world, like what's on the news, the things they get you involved in with your emotions. It's called loosh. It's an emotional energy that they're trying to target here, and keeping you disconnected from this will make you more suggestible and readily open to contributing your loosh, contributing your emotional energy towards the whatever the big thing is on the TV, whatever you're focused on. Is it Taylor Swift is coming to town, or is it Trump's gonna nuke Iran, or those sort of things are what they can be used to get you completely emotionally invested. They can be used as distractions. Like, there's all kinds of uses The whole idea, though, is that it's being manipulated. What comes into our realities through news and social media and movies, Hollywood, the propaganda machine, like it's incredible how much social programming is in our movies and TV shows. And I mean, that's what it is, right? Essentially, it's like a silent agreement in the background that when you agree to watch a movie, you know you're about to be you're about to be shown a story, but through that story you're relating to characters, you're emotionally investing in the story. Therefore, it is, in a sense, social programming, because that whole thing is designed, that whole scenario, the whole scene, the actors in it portraying these two that you're getting emotionally invested in, is social programming. It's, oh, how does that person react when that happens? How does such and such, what's the appropriate, what's inappropriate, what's, and based off of your beliefs and views, and you have judgments, but you're getting a social programming for society or the world or that particular actor playing that role out there in real life. That guy, he's got to be out there somewhere. He looks like someone I've seen before. Whoever that guy is, that's how he would act, is what the movie is portraying to you. That's social programming. It gets deep. It gets so deep, way deeper than I can actually get into on this. I'm already over time for, I was going to put this on Enlightened Stoner, but I think I might just put this on the underlying gnosis, because I'm already at like 18 minutes and I'm not done talking yet about the programming. Well, maybe I am for now, because like I said, you can go so deep into it, into the subtlety of breaking down the individual programming and how effective, like news versus like news you see in. There was a while there I was getting all my news through memes somehow. I was just learning about the world, and it was just a progression of memes, and I knew I had a good idea of what was going on in the world. The narratives the stories that they're trying to portray, they're trying to get you invested in emotionally. And with your investment now being somewhere else, that's less investment you have in yourself. Just think about that, because when you're invested in anything else outside of yourself, that's a distraction, that's attention you're not putting on your vessel. So your energy is leaving. It's not being used for anything. It's not being put into constructive thought. It's basically your frequency and your vibration is contributing towards the thing they want you emotionally invested in. So now you're sending it out, right? That's where yours is going. now you have none left for yourself. So you feel maybe in scarcity, maybe you sent out a bunch of your love and now you're not feeling any at home, so now you're reaching out for love and there's none there, so then you reach for the quick dopamine fix, the food, the addiction, all this stuff that not the food necessarily, but the addictions especially, that they make the most money off of taxes. Like, how much is nicotine taxed? How much is alcohol taxed? And those are the quick fixes for people who, once you get to a certain point in this spectrum of your energy going out and not being inside of you, you're gonna feel like an emptiness that just isn't getting replaced. So we reach to things like the alcohol or the OnlyFans or anything else for the dopamine to temporarily fill that lack of internal fulfillment that we would get if we had our connection to source and our centeredness. So that was probably the longest explanation that you could hear on just the effect of keeping you away from your pineal gland, keeping it locked, keeping it calcified, keeping that shell over it and not letting it resonate. But now we went a step further because, I don't know, at this point there's so much stuff, chemicals and stuff in our stuff that we put in our body, that we have all around us, frequencies everywhere. Like, it's kind of a lot. And so there's really no way to tell if, are you born, is it already calcified because of something that they did prenatally or whatever? Is there a certain point in your life when it's most susceptible to being cracked? Is it kind of in our evolutionary best interest, or the way that it works, where it's purposely calcified for a certain amount of your life, and then later on you'll find a way to crack it open? Or, I don't know, there's a number of theories you could have on this, but as far as when and how, it's like, I don't have a clear process because mine came on so sporadically. I wasn't even like, I was kind of halfway meditating, halfway not, and then there were ones where the awakening happened outside of meditation, and then there were ones where an awakening happened inside of meditation. And there's, the more layers you unlock, and then it becomes, okay, your whole world perspective changes, and now it becomes, okay, I don't think there's anything more to discover. Like, not in the sense of that everything's been discovered, but all of a sudden you reach a point where you've awakened to basically all of the untruths in the world. Like, you can see deceptions like that. Like, what is actually built in truth and light, and what is just a bad idea waiting to happen, or just something that might seem good here but later on is just because it just doesn't have those grains of sugar holding it together, the right grains of sugar. And it's might have been a half-baked, somewhat good idea for 50% of the population, but if someone had just added that essential something to it, it would have benefited everyone 100%, sort of a thing. And I don't know, there's got to be a name for that. Like the amount of, like, someone can have an inspiration for something, but the idea is so bad and like it would never work in 100 years. It's not even like a desirable thing for people, like the people that they're trying to sell to, their impression of their future customer is that their future customer would want that product, but in reality no one would even like really want it that bad. But they have this super inflated idea that this thing is going to be like everyone's going to want one, because maybe secretly they did inside at one point, or they think they can see it. What is that? Is that a lack of vision? Is that like a partially cracked egg or something, where the guy's got half of it but the other half just makes it completely failed? I don't know if I'm really coming across, if you're really picking up what I'm putting down here, but like, if you've seen the Rick and Morty episode of Story Train, and I think it's even later on in a later episode that they revisit the idea of Story Train, and they actually go to the artist's house, the artist that made Story Train. And so here's this like out of work looking, bummy looking artist in his studio apartment heating up a hot dog with a lighter, right? He's supposed to look like, destitute. And his problem was that he had no like Story Train. It was kind of a good idea but not really, and it was bad from the start, and it never really would have worked out, and he got a bad rap. But his thing was a lack of vision, but he perceived a vision there. So there's inspiration for the vision, but his antenna just wasn't connecting to what would resonate with humanity. It was more of what resonate with himself internally maybe, but not because he lacked that connection to source, that it wouldn't resonate with humanity and therefore not be successful. And that was the whole idea behind the Story Train thing, was that it was a shit idea, and all that in the end. It was a good episode, but what's the name for that? I'm not even going to try to come up with one, because I know that there's like a scientific way to figure out exactly what you should call that, but I've never heard it referred to before. But I've seen it commonly. I've felt it in myself sometimes, just feeling that inspiration but lack of solid intuition for something that's really gonna work. Like, I'll share a story. It's a good example, and it may be why this plagues me so. Because when I was a kid, I had this idea. I lived on a busy street, and I don't know how old I was, 6, 7, I had this idea that I wanted to make money, right? Like I needed to sell something, or I needed something valuable so that I could earn money, so that I could get the things that I wanted, because I was a very poor kid. So I don't know why I thought that people would want a hand carved stick, but for some reason that sounded like a good idea, because I love buckskinners and it was exposed wood. I was like, yeah, it's so cool. I'm exposing this wood, getting all the bark off these sticks. These people are going to want them, $2-3 a piece. Put them out by the tree with a nice sign, and I sat out there and waved at all the cars driving by. Not a single one stopped. Not even out of pity. But, you had the inspiration to go and make a desirable item, get it out there, and had the vision to put it right in a busy area where people are going to see it and all that. But the whole attractor was dog shit, basically. I don't even know what to do with that one. I think I'm just gonna just chew on that for a while, but maybe at a different time. So, cracking that pineal is massive. I mean, it's the foundation, I think, I know, to awakening to your true self, to your inner self. Your cosmic self, having that connection. And I don't know how strong it is, and like I said, a year ago I didn't even know anything about any of this, so I'm learning just constantly about this. So having a background in religion, that plays into it. I don't know how awakened religious people are on the realm of how open their pineal gland actually is, even though their idea of the light is the light that they're looking at is like like the I'm trying to think. Okay. So fluorescent light covers, those opaque, just you can see the light there, but there's something blocking it. That's religion. Religion is the fluorescent light cover that goes over the light, that you're seeing it, but you're not seeing it. So I don't know how open your pineal gland is at that point, as far as like general prayer and stuff like that, how effective that is versus like going deep in meditation and consciously, going there within. So the pineal gland throughout history has been almost directly linked to religion. Oddly enough, the Christians don't seem to talk about it a whole lot. In fact, almost not at all. I don't think it was mentioned once. But on the Pope's scepter, you'll see a pine cone. That's representative of the pineal gland. Now I have to get this right because I got it wrong. On Hindu temples, the Hindu Buddha wearing a pine cone hat. These are, Hinduism, ancient. Christianity, ancient. I mean, technically ancient, but like Hinduism goes way back. They explain what happens inside of you when that cosmic egg cracks. They know your third eye. They know your connection. They know your chakras. Like, it's all explained. I really have a hard time not saying this because, but yet, even though they explained it all in great detail and like to what actually happens, the Christians don't seem to subscribe to that sort of, what would that even be? Would it be esoteric thought? Because I don't know if that could be considered esoteric or theology or whatever the specific definition of it is, but the Christians didn't seem to find that valid or even that worth looking into, worth including in any of their stuff, because of the disconnection that now you would almost have to think that certain enlightened people would have to be behind this, right? Because if you know about the pineal gland and you know that you're trying to keep it calcified for a reason, you would know that you wouldn't want yours to be calcified. Therefore, you would be the awakened one behind the calcification of everyone else's, right? So there's got to be someone doing it at the tippy top. Must be. Trying to keep it away from us. So that through the disconnection from yourself, your source, the knowledge of the actual reality in this reality, instead you're being given it's a false reality. Even though it is very much a reality, it's possible because of the subscribers to it. So like, you get everyone to sign on to Christianity, that becomes the reality then, right? So subscribers. So when you got society controlled by a religion of fear and sin, you have control. Because not just control over people doing bad things, it's control over everything. Sure, there's fear preventing people from stealing and everything else, but it's the societal fears that they play with and manipulate to control you the most. The emotional fears that they play with, the fears of security, the fears of being accepted, the fears of I couldn't come up with a third one. But along those lines, a religion based on fear control society, control the religion, control the governed people through fear. The United States is in God we trust. It's a Judeo-Christian nation. Look at the religions of the world and their regions and the history where it all goes back to. You can see the manipulation of religions throughout history. That can only tell you one thing, that none of them were 100% correct about what they were saying. Even though, at least the one that I was taught, tried saying that they're the only ones that are correct. And I'm sure a lot of other ones are too, probably especially the Muslims. Yeah, I think pretty sure they think only they are correct. Maybe every religion is that way, only they are correct. But I know that Hinduism allows you to practice alongside. They don't care what religion or what gods you subscribe to. They said, go ahead, you can be here with us. We're open to you. You as long as you're good with us, whatever, we're fine, we're good. Christianity, on the other hand, well, their history. I got excommunicated because I didn't show up for church enough times within a certain tax year, so they had to write me off of their amount, off of their flock that they got tax write-offs for. So that's all that was. Penance. Monetarily now, you can buy your way out of purgatory. That's just all the popes, all the corruption, all the sex. Holy shit. All in the name of religion. It still just mystifies me that there are still people that cling to it. But it's really been the only thing to cling to for a lot of people. Because religion offers I guess a sense of existential calm to an extent. If you're questioning your existence, find a religion, learn it, basically explains everything as long as you believe it, or you have to believe it in order to but that keeps people at a certain place. And unless they're shown like the true nature of their existence, religion doesn't explain that. It can't. I mean, their whole thing is that a singular entity snapped its fingers and everything just became. When we know verifiably that it has become this way through history, throughout time, the passage of time. It didn't just became all at once. It became that way through the passage of time. That alone, I mean, it opens the doors to so much more science that would have been repressed by, that idea. That idea would completely suppress what I think are the most interesting things that we're learning right now about our world is actually been oddly mostly historical lately. The more we're learning about our world involving our history and our course, everything, our place in time and space-time, none of that can be explained anymore by religion, so it completely takes that off the table for those people as far as like awakening to their true nature of who they are and purpose and where did they come from, where are they going, sort of a thing. So yes, religion has an explanation, but it doesn't, it's completely false for one thing, but it doesn't even fully explain still your, role. It said, oh yes, God loves you and he made you, and even though he didn't actually form you, your parents did, but you're his child and your soul goes there. Your soul is completely separate from God's soul. Two different things. Can't be similar or same, or it's not it's a different inconscient. There's something bigger, more advanced than just like you're nothing compared to that thing, sort of a mentality that you have to be in order to adhere to this religion. So you have no sense of that you are a fragment of source. You are a fractal. You are everything, a tiny spark of everything that is contained within source, within yourself. It's one and the same. You are the micro expression of the macro expression. So that's a lot different than creationism. That's all I'm saying. But this got way off topic. Well, not really, but it all really comes down to awakening, and those are the first three things that you really have to understand. Is that, one, you got this little almond-shaped gland inside your head, inside your brain. It produces, don't make me quote the the two. I knew it. It was okay. Serotonin. There's what's the other? Dopamine? I think it actually is. Produces the dopamine and serotonin. And your other one, the pituitary, produces the other two, or whatever, however. You know, I learned a bunch of it. I'm not trying to teach people about it, or I'm not a doctor on it and stuff, so like definitely look into the details of the different glands in your brain and the different hormones they produce. And Stanford University, Robert Sapolsky has a whole semester of his Stanford college course on human behavioral biology. It's awesome. I watched the whole thing. It was free. It's free. It's on YouTube. I mean, why not? But very fascinating. Would open up a lot of knowledge about the different chemicals and stuff that goes on inside our brains. But the knowledge of this, what it does, the fact that it's turned off, that it's either been turned off or continuing to be turned off by suppressing certain nutrients in our diet or in our general wide food variety option categories that we find at the grocery store. The foods and the nutrients, whatever you need to crack that pineal gland, keep it healthy, keep it resonating, aren't found in our food. In fact, fluoride and other things are what contribute to the calcification, and they're literally putting it in our tap water. That's fact number one. Number two, well, that was one and two, because one is the pineal gland, two is that it's calcified and being kept calcified. Three is that it's by your government. Four is that it's by your government based on religion. What's five gonna be? That'll be on the next video. So until next time, never stop spreading your light.